Yes.
Okay, recording in progress. We are live. Very good. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Emmitsburg Town Meeting for Monday, March 7th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. I have an announcement related to a closed session. At the close of the March 7th, 2022 town meeting, the Emmitsburg Mayor and Board of Commissioners intend to meet in a closed session for the purpose of consulting with staff, consultants, or other individuals to discuss the proposed employment of the candidate for the water and sewer trainee position. The authority for meeting in closed session for this purpose is permitted by the General Provisions Article Section -3305, subset B, subset 1, annotated Code of Maryland, which authorizes us to meet in closed session to discuss employment. The Board of Commissioners will not be meeting in another open session after the closed session has ended. Okay, so that's our first item. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please, if they have a phone, to turn it to either mute or off in respect to the decorum of our meeting. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Future meetings include the Planning Commission meeting, which will occur on Monday, March 28th of 2022. March 28th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the town office and via Zoom. Our next town council meeting will occur April 4, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. It will occur here in the town office again and via Zoom. Are there any other meetings you need to share at this time?
I have.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sweeney.
I had a meeting coming up for the Heritage Community Day. It'll be March the 21st. It'll be on Monday at 7 p.m. at the Knights of Columbus buildings where we're having, if anybody wants to come to that, it's open to the public. It will be March 21st. It's a Monday at 7 p.m. at the Knights of Columbus building on West Main Street.
Terrific. Okay, thank you, sir. Any other meetings? Okay, hearing none, we move on. I'm assuming we all had the opportunity to look at the minutes for the February 7th, 2022 meeting. Are there any modifications or suggestions related to it?
Nope.
Oh, all right. Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the minutes from the February 7th, 2022 meeting as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? No. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
do we have a second?
Yes.
Oh, I thought we had it so moved.
I'm
I'm sorry, you so moved, and I thought I heard, okay.
sorry, I didn't hear a second.
Understood.
Apologize.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Ritz, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Call to vote again. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Ritz. I'm sorry.
I think it's the plexiglass screens. I'm so used to them. It's messing up my hearing.
Very
The
good,
lack
very
of
good.
tonight. Thanks.
I just need change for a 10, you know. All right, moving forward. Police report. The deputy's not with us at the moment.
No, I am,
So,
yeah,
okay,
due to,
right, right.
I do have something though that they asked that I pass along.
Yes, ma'am.
Over the weekend, there was extensive vandalism in both our parks. Spray paint in the baseball dugouts, spray paint on new recycling trash cans, street signs, the pavilion posts, I think some board fences. It was very extensive. It's going to be costly to remove. If anybody has any information, we will be posting some pictures up on Facebook tomorrow. Please reach out to either the deputies or the town office with any information.
Great, thank you.
That's great. Now, I was going to ask that question. If we had some surveillance photos.
Yes.
Sounds like we do. So that's good.
Well, we only have photos of the damage.
Oh.
The deputies are working on any surveillance that we might be able to come across.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We turn now to the manager's report. Ms. Willis, I'll offer this. I have to step off the floor for the moment. Please proceed with your report. I'll be right back.
Okay. This will be the manager's report for January of 2022. I'll highlight some key areas. Related to streets, staff conducted monthly storm and drain inlet cleaning. They came in for a couple of snow and ice events. We removed all the holiday decorations from town, installed a new street light box on Timber Mill Run at Wheatley Drive, and we gave 3 rubber speed bumps to the post office. For parks, we removed the speed bumps on Memorial Park Road for the upcoming paving project. The staff installed a new outdoor light on the men's side of the Memorial Park restroom building. And the staff took a load of dirt back to hole number 10 at the disc golf. Related to Rainbow Lake, or water, Rainbow Lake is currently at the spillway level of 16.6 feet. You can see the well depths. Well number 4 and 5 were off for the month of January. Water production, we produced an average of 224,712 gallons per day. And we consumed 210,120 gallons per day. The amount of backwash water in the month of January was 16.39%. We purchased 451,050 gallons of water from Mount St. Mary's in January. For wastewater, we treated 626,000 gallons per day, consumed 210,120, which is the 66% of the wastewater treated was wild water. We did not have any spills of untreated sewage, but we did exceed the plant's design capacity on January 1st. We received, excuse me, about 3.2 inches of precipitation. We currently have a surplus of 3.96 inches over the last 6 months. Trash pickup will remain Mondays in the month of March. Highlighted are some of the meetings I had in January. Just some noteworthy items. Staff worked with a contractor on East Lincoln to dig up and install 6 feet PVC sewer pipe. The contractor conducted yearly maintenance on the town's fire extinguishers. Staff installed some rubber rings around manholes that were hit during plowing in Silo Hill. And staff assisted the contractor with the lowering of the large antenna that was falling down near the maintenance garage. And that's the manager's report.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Sorry. Are there any questions for the town manager?
No, I just have one thing to add.
Mr. Sweeney?
The veterans banners will be done sometime this month, towards the middle to the end. Dale Shields will be coming to the town to give them to staff so they can be put on the posts.
Okay.
So sometime this month they'll be coming.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, we now turn to the town planner for the planner's report.
Hello, everybody. This is the planner's report for January 2022. Under commissioners, we researched the history of the 4 open space lots at Brookfield and also the 4 B1 zone properties at the entrance of Brookfield. Received process and starting preparing staff review memo for the zoning map amendment application under grants. We continue to work on the community legacy grant. We met with our sustainable community work group. Created those packets, submitted the fiscal year 22 applications to the Maryland Historical Trust for review. I processed approval denial letters to grant agreements for fiscal year 22. I processed 3 reimbursement requests under ADA ramp grant management. I had 5 construction inspections. I had 1 employee interview as required by the grant, reviewed and processed weekly payrolls. I met with MDOT SHA regarding ramp 133 and a right-of-way permit. Attended a progress meeting, completed the semi-annual report. As of this date, January 31st, I had 81 ramps completed. Under the Paul Street Waterline Grant, process 14 completed income surveys. Amy and I reached out to missing survey properties via phone and in person and letters. MS4, Silo Hill Stormwater Basin retrofit and tree planting grant management under the Stormwater Management Utility Feasibility Study. I had a feasibility advisory committee meeting, which was our last one. Let's see, gathered and provided various information to the contractor, created maps of all non-residential properties within the town boundary and also town-owned properties. Under permits, we had 6 zoning permit applications. Noteworthy ones are 4 single-family dwellings in Brookfield. To date, we have 5 lots remaining in Brookfield along Irishtown Road and 5 lots remaining in Southgate. We had 3 backflow preventer permit applications, 1 street closure permit, 1 street cut permit, one personal use firewood application, and we responded to various incident reports, planning commission, various project management under the Irishtown Road, continue to review various construction reports. I attended the Irishtown Road ribbon cutting event for Rudders. We worked with the engineer on sewer construction specification approvals. East Industrial Park 2 received, processed, and started to review the final forest conservation plan and also the final subdivision plan for combined lots 7 and 8. I worked with the public director, works director, and sewer water superintendent on information for the Worthens Court Townhouse 5-unit development. Created and distributed new membership packets for 2 new members of our planning commission. I finalized the planning commission report and I attended the meeting. Miscellaneous forestry project management, worked with the contractor on the street tree plan, reviewed and provide updates to the town planner job description, researched grant for potential water fire hydrant supply tank, storage tank for the manager, gathered information for the sewer and water rate study, and then completed these and submitted the 2021 Forest Conservation Act report to the state. And then, as always, there's our new business and development updates if there's any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, sir. Mr. Burns.
So we have 81 of the ADA ramps complete. How many do we have left?
So they actually just finished up today, supposedly.
So everything's complete?
Yeah, it's not going to be 130 as it's stated in this memo. There's a little bit less. We're not going to do the ones in the park because they're not required to be ADA compliant at the specific locations. I think it's going to be around 120.
Okay, so only a few more road closures and things of that nature remaining? Or
Yeah.
we could be all right.
We're done with the ramp construction. However, we do have to do some line painting.
Okay.
So we may have a day or two of specific street closures temporarily. We should be good.
And then one more is, you were mentioning 5 lots left in Southgate. Have you been approached by anybody else? Because I got an email about something. And I was just curious.
Yeah, I spoke with Oliver Holmes
Okay.
the other day, and they're probably going to buy some more or maybe all of them.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for the planner? Yes, sir. Mr. Ritz.
I have 2 regarding the community development block grant there along DePaul Street. It sounds like we're still at a dismal survey return rate. So,
We wrapped it up.
oh,
It's done.
you got, okay, great.
And we qualify.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, then forget the second part to my question. Regarding new business, what is the Mason-Dixon Logistics Park?
So this is the original Catoctin Vistas trout property. So instead of, he was originally proposing to do 300 plus single family dwellings.
Okay.
However, his vision is shifted more to an industrial park now.
Huh.
So that's what that is.
Okay.
That's on the other side of the highway.
Yeah, right in front of Rudders.
Interesting.
Will there have to be improvements made to on and off ramps for Route 15 if something like that does occur?
More than likely. And also Harney Road.
Will it be, do we anticipate it being signalized?
I couldn't.
No.
Yeah, it's up to MDOT.
Okay, all right. What are you doing?
Maybe that'll take it because I remember, my main concern with Rudders, not opposed to Rudders being here, but I was hoping there'd be some sort of
Signals?
signal, especially with vehicles pulling in and out of the Rudders and the park and ride. And
Yeah,
now with the,
And rezoning for consideration?
it will. It will have to be rezoned.
Okay.
it probably would have been anyway though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. It's currently in the conservation
Cons-
recreation, which is a temporary holding. So it would have to be rezoned.
Any other questions for the planner?
I,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The second bullet in your new business, explain the Mason-Dixon's Logistics Park. I
Oh,
leaned
sure.
over it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
If I would have
Yep.
read that
No worries.
better, then I would have saw it. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Davis.
Just real quick, for the Main Street grants, you mentioned during that meeting that there might be some additional funding coming. Did we
Yes.
get anything?
So we are applying, well, we actually just applied for the Main Street grant. Since we're an affiliate now, we're eligible for up to $10,000 per year. I did apply for it. And so hopefully we'll get word within the next week or 2.
Okay, would that take care of the rest of those?
It'll take care of the next person in line and also half of the VFW.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for the planner at this time? Okay, one thing I'll add is I more or less stumbled upon the Federal Stone meeting this past Wednesday when I was in the office for another item and had the opportunity to meet leadership, senior leadership of Federal Stone, who were almost gushing over Mr. Golden and his efforts to get them
Yeah, they're nice.
situated here in town. They were profoundly complimentary, and Mr. Golden, that was very nice to hear and see firsthand from the owner of the company. So I wanted to make sure that made it to our meeting tonight. Okay, yes, sir. Moving forward, we now turn to commissioner comments. Commissioner Ritz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know I sound like a broken record every month, but I like to thank our local media for coming. It's great that they report on our small town. So thank you very much. It's great seeing Pastor John here. Everybody talked after COVID, returning to a sense of normalcy. Looks like we're back to normal. So thank you. I was approached by a band director from Frederick County Public Schools. He's one of the teachers that he's one of the band directors for elementary students. They travel to different schools in the county. They're looking to have a spring concert, North County and South County. And he reached out to me potentially to use the bandstand. That was my question the other day regarding the pavilion. So I'm going to get more information from him and kind of guide him through that process. So we should be seeing that soon for reserving that date to be determined sometime in May. So there'll be individuals from throughout the county here for this band recital concert. One of my own sons will be in that concert as well. So I'll be there as well. I was approached, I received an email from an individual from, he lives in North Florida. He has a friend who lives up on Hampton Valley Road. It's outside of town limits, but she was questioning lack of broadband and internet up there. There's really nothing that we can do as it's outside of town limits. However, I'm going to reach out to Ms. Willits to potentially discuss future broadband equity access and development, or the BEAD program. I know that there may be some money coming along to different municipalities and such that we may be able to apply towards that. I'm not sure. So I'll get more details and then reach out to you. And that is all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ritz. Mr. Davis.
Just real quick, I want to thank Maddie, Ms. Shaw, for continuing to actively look into grants for the parks. And the one thing that did come out of our parks meeting last week, we're looking to put in possibly a reading trail that one of our members for the children. And we've been up to trying to find one in Carroll Valley and Walkersville who have them, but took them down for the winter. So we're trying to get more information. So if anybody out there has information on these reading trails, please try to get a hold of Ms. Shaw or myself and give us the information. And that's all I got.
There is one behind the Thurmont Library. They're a new paved path. They have a reading trail. So it's up and running and being used right now. So it's a nice model. Yeah.
Of course, it's going to be 40 degrees tomorrow.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Right. Very good.
Bundle up.
Mr. Burns. Thank you, sir.
I know this is usually Commissioner O'Donnell's soapbox talking about cycling and things of that nature, but just as the weather gets nicer, especially now, you're going to see a lot more people out on the road running, cycling, young kids, coming through the neighborhoods and things like that. So just be very cautious of as the weather gets nicer, you're going to see a lot more activity on the outside. And the police the deputies have been doing a great job in town, making sure people are slowing down and things of that nature. But if everybody's just aware of that, it'd be great as we get into that spring season. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sweeney.
We're starting to gear up for our community day coming up in town. So we're having a meeting on the 21st. We missed all two main fundraisers because of the pandemic in January and February. So we're having a fundraiser with the help of the fire company letting us use their building on April the 2nd, and it will be for the fireworks and the games and everything for Community Day. So if anybody would like to come, it should be in the banner and all them paper, and we'll have flyers out, but the dance, It's a regular dance, $15 a ticket, and all the proceeds will go to the community day. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, sir. Okay. I was able to attend the MML meeting for the Frederick County MML group. And I want to share this with the board because this probably will come back to us at some point in time in the future, potentially. There was a discussion about speed cameras in communities. I know that's something that we've talked about in meetings, and we've always run into the issue that typically the speed cameras that we're interested in would be on state highways. Would it be like Business 15, Seton Avenue, or 140? MML is coming forward with sort of an interesting program because I feel sometimes when the state highway folks don't want to do it, part of it is because the process requires a state police officer to review the ticketing, and therefore tickets can't be issued. And the state highway folks, I'll infer, don't want to pull an officer for a day to review tickets. So they want him or her out on the street, so to speak. So with that in mind, MML is looking to have the state create a program where an individual can certify speeding tickets the same way an officer would, but it would not be a law enforcement officer that would be doing the enforcement. So MML asked for the towns to give us a vote of support or not. I voted on our behalf, yes, with the intent that it will become something that other MML branches will look at. So it's not legislation, it's not to be proposed yet, but it's just sort of giving the nod to look at it as a future item. So that was one thing that took place at the MML meeting. Eric Soter, the former county planner for Frederick County, spoke at the meeting. He's currently a private consultant and also a town resident. He's been a friend to town government, arguably, and he's a strong advocate for our community and best practices in the community. He has offered to meet with individual commissioners to discuss growth and school capacity specifically, and his views of appropriate local growth. Now, admittedly, you know, we have to kind of walk a fine line on input, whether he's representing his the business that he works for or his own views. His intent, he said, was to express his own views. But the other side of it is, I think there'd be a very good value in looking at or hearing him out on what he had to say about school capacity and the growth in Emmitsburg, because I know there's been some interest and some energy on that topic. And Eric is very kind with his time, and I think it would be a benefit to all of us. I had the opportunity to sit with him, and I did sit with him. I found it very interesting. I can't say I agreed with every single thing he said, but it was very helpful to hear an informed voice share some good perspective on these things. Turkey t-shirts have been distributed in part. The effort is ongoing. We had a very successful distribution event. I want to thank Commissioner Ritz for assisting with that process. Commissioner Sweeney poked his head in to say hello. That was appreciated. Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Davis, thank you for your follow-up emails. The feedback I've gotten is a lot of people are very interested in another running event on Community Day. So another one during the school year. And finally, on sort of a different note, Frederick County Sheriff's Deputy Kenny Olander passed away last Wednesday. I think everybody knows that. Kenny was a resident of the town. He lived a few doors down from us in Carrick Court. He was known to the kids and almost everybody as Kenny the Cop. He's a bit of a charismatic guy, a funny guy. And sadly, he's no longer with us. I was able to make the 5 o'clock viewing. I was very happy to be able to represent the town there briefly in my own household. I rode with Kenny a number of times. He was a passionate cyclist. He was professionally sponsored when he was younger, before he was in the deputy sheriff's role. And even most recently on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, he recently narrated a video that has gone out about sharing the road. So he's, committed, through and through to cycling and safe pedestrian access. And the final say is here that he certainly will be missed. He always made himself available for the town for town issues. And personally, I'll miss him. He was a good man and just a fun person to be around. So on that, Mr. Mayor, I turn this over to you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Just a couple of highlights of my activities last month. Maryland Commission on African American History Culture at a public meeting virtual. And that ties in with our rich history up here of a Black community that lived on Lincoln, and how it's successfully on many occasions and was challenged their ability up here to live quietly. They our community rose to support them and protect them. And St. Euphemia is a little school. We're going to put a wayside station in front of there this spring. It was the only education point for Black Americans in our community up here, and the rich history. And it was 10 years before Brown versus Topeka, the Supreme Court case that integrated public schools. The sisters integrated their class. They have, up until then, Maryland was a separate but equal state, so they were educated over the sisters' quarters, but they went ahead and did this quietly. And I think that just speaks very highly of our community up there. And many of them, Frank Davis notes on occasions playing ball and everything, and it just speaks really highly of our country culture. Sustainable Maryland Executive Committee meeting. I was in on it, and I hope to get him on a podcast here. I just think about that. I'll be after you on that. Current assessment for Frederick County Community Foundation. I had an interview with Eric Devereaux and Devereaux Consulting, just where they think we're going and what's going on. It seemed to really tie in because Eric Soder made that same presentation to the home builders, the Builders Association. They made out there because we were all there, and said we ought to have him speak at MML and at the chapter meeting. Let's see, just going down here, Wayside exhibit for St. Euphemia's, Mount St. Mary's Alumni Liberal Arts Symposium, St. John's, Annapolis, Santa Fe, attended their symposium. Had a podcast here, was done by Zoom with the County Executive Jan Gardner, and let's see, the Athletic Advisory Committee with the Mount. It was canceled and then rescheduled. I couldn't make that, but Tuscany, we welcomed a new business here. We're always looking. We had a vacancy there, and it wasn't related to the market. It was related to maybe relationships with the tenancy of the building. So it took them well over a year and a half to get another restaurant to come in there, but they're a wonderful family, hardworking Americans that are just really neat to go and read. There's a family thing. I had a podcast with Conrad Weaver. He, over the last 6 years, he's gone to Ukraine 4 times. And as we were sitting down for the podcast last Tuesday, he mentioned he just got off the phone talking to these people and texting these people what it's like, what it is, and it was very good interview. And Conrad is so tied to them in many different layers, and it's just it's really special what's going on over there. And I hope we can all appreciate that. Where do we go if there's no place for us to go if something goes crazy here? And look at these people are just loving just to have a life and stuff like that. And sometimes we're going around the edges trying to get something. I'm not trying to be a right wing or left wing or anything like that. Sister Martha will be on my podcast this week with Seton Center, and it'd be really good if you could tune in. I think that's all, sir. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. We don't have the list. Just curiously, do we have anybody signed up for public comment? No, we don't. Very good. Okay.
I got one more thing, sir.
Yes, sir.
I got my water bill from the town on January 29th to 30th, and it's dated December 29th. It took a month to get, I only live about 4 houses from the post office, but so if people are having problems with their water bills, and you're not getting them on time, we'll try to do our best to work with you on that. Thank you. Here's the exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's good news. Appreciate that regarding the water bill. Thank you.
Okay, at this time we turn to agenda item G, administrative business related to 507 East Main Street.
H.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So ever since the property owner passed away a few years ago, the property has just become in disrepair, as everybody probably knows. We continue to get complaints every so often from nearby property owners. We weren't able to work with the current property owner, the executrix of the estate. So we went and got an administrative search warrant, which was signed by the Frederick County Courts. We hired Ad Tech, who are structural engineers, and we also hired Top to Bottom Services, who are mold specialists. And they found the mold specialists deemed the building safe regarding mold, which was shocking because the doors and windows have been open for a long time. And then the structural engineers found the building to be stable condition overall, not in danger of imminent collapse. They did not find significant roof leaks or other water infiltration into the house. The walls and ceiling appeared to be in general satisfactory condition from a structural standpoint. And any 4 framing members that they could observe were in fair condition. The house is not habitable at the moment. There are just small, there's 6, I won't read them unless you want me to, small changes that they'll have to fix. Unfortunately or fortunately, the building is not in a dangerous condition that it can be deemed a dangerous and hazardous building. So that's my brief presentation. There's nothing more the town can do for this property.
Commissioner Burns.
At what point in time can we revisit the issue? Is there like a time frame, like, okay, 6 months from now, since everything was left open, we can go back and visit it again, or a year from now, or anything of that nature?
There's no time limit.
Okay.
So we can look maybe the next year or so
Okay.
and just see.
I have a question.
Mr. Sweeney.
Have you talked to the owner?
The best we could, but no.
Oh, because I didn't know
Once-
if because a lot needs we fixed, or it needs.
Yeah, Amy and I are working on that right now.
Okay.
It needs to be regraded, seeded, and it needs to be weed whacked for sure. We did speak with the Frederick County Fire Department, Fire Marshal. However, they did not want to comment on this issue as it could be a legal issue. So
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Ritz, did you have a question?
same with Frederick County building inspectors as well. We tried to contact them as well.
They were on site. I'm sorry, for clarification, neither were on site.
They
The
wouldn't
fire-
get involved.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Mr. Ritz, did you have a question?
I do. I don't know how to frame it without the legal implications of what I need. So I don't want to. No,
Okay,
it's a shame. That's all.
It is, yeah. It's a
I'll leave it
shame.
at that. Yeah.
Maybe we can change our course of action now since we can't take that route and somehow get word to the owner that there are people interested in buying that property. Maybe that's, not that we can, other than letting her know that there's somebody out there, or several people out there that might want that property.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah, I know one in particular that wants to buy it now. We've called, we've sent letters. Amy's put my card with a message on it. We've tried, we'll keep trying.
Okay.
okay, any other questions regarding this item? Okay, just for the sake of clarity, in the body of our document, it shows it as item G. On the front page, as Mr. Sweeney pointed out, it's listed as item H, but regardless,
Sure.
any further questions for the planner regarding this item? Hearing none, let's move on. Okay, so I'm going to stick with the body of the document. So I'll go to item H, our consent agenda. I'm on page 16 of 25.
Okay.
So Ms. Willis, will you present this or related to Mr. Esses? Okay, Mr. Briggs.
Levi Esses, after Bernard Franklin left the amount, Dr. Franklin, he moved up into his position, and that also includes a home on their campus. So he's moved outside of our town limits, and by our paperwork, we can't have anybody on board that lives outside of town. So it's still appointed Scott Frager as a regular member of the Board of Appeals, but with the term of March 7th, 2022 through February 17th, 2023. And I still have to get a person to replace Mr. Esses
Very good. Okay, thank you, sir. So,
as an alternate.
sorry. So for the board, I'll turn to the board at this time. Is there a motion to accept the resignation of Levi Esses from the Board of Appeals effective January 12th, 2022?
I move.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 5-0, all commissioners present. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Scott Frager as a regular member of the Board of Appeals with a term of March 7th, 2022 through February 17th, 2023?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second for Commissioner Davis's motion?
Second.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Burns. Is there, I'm sorry,
Questions?
all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. As it's a consent agenda, we don't have discussion.
No, I just a
Okay.
follow-up question to that.
Okay, yes, sir.
about that. Why the weird dates? Why February 17th? Wouldn't that leave a gap in having someone on the board if there was an appeal between meetings?
So, for why March 7th?
Or no, March 7th is obviously today,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm saying like in the future for February 17th, 2023.
Oh, that's just how the term
All right,
was
that's fine.
ran.
I was just curious, like, why wouldn't it be like meeting to meeting? Or something
Understood.
like that,
Yeah.
So that's how the SS term initially. ran.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burns, good.
No, that
Okay.
was my question. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, thank you. We now turn to letter I, page 17 of 25, the treasurer's report. Mr. Treasurer.
This is a treasury report for March 7th. This is for the cash activity as of February 28th. We had a cash balance on February 1st of $7,803,265. We had deposits in the amount of $412,679, withdrawals in the amount of $411,057, left us with an operating balance forward of $7,804,887. The top 10 check amounts are listed below, and I'll answer questions as I can. If not, refer to staff.
Thank you, sir. Any questions regarding the report for staff? Hearing none, we move on. Turning to page 18 of 25, item J, pardon me, Planning Commission report.
Mr. President, Planning
Sure.
Commission met on February 28th. We conditionally approved the following: the final subdivision plat for Emmitsburg East Industrial Park 2, the final forest conservation plan for Emmitsburg East Industrial Park 2, the corrected improvement plat for Village Liquors and Plaza Inn, and the corrected site plan for Village Liquors and Plaza Inn. And that was it. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for the commissioner? No. Do we have a timeline for the liquor store and the accommodation, the hotel motel accommodation?
Somewhat. I believe that they're getting their, they need the tax ID from the Frederick County in order to proceed. They needed that from their bank. And then after that, certain permitting with the town needs to be completed. So we're probably looking in the next few months, perhaps they can start breaking ground.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. They need to get their stormwater permit through the county, and they're also erosion and sediment control, which may take a little bit, but we're working with the county to fast track their permitting. So hopefully by July, he's ready. So.
Great. Okay, thank you. That's great. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we now turn to item K, our agenda items. I'm on page 19 of 25.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to introduce you to my two new favorite people from the University of Maryland. Michelle Kokolis and Jennifer Cotting. Michelle, would you just push the little button? Perfect.
So if you could just introduce yourself and your program, and that way we have it on the audio record as well.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Michelle Kokolis. I'm a program manager at the Environmental Finance Center at the University of Maryland. And we've been working on your Stormwater Utility Feasibility Study. A little bit information about us. We are one of 10 environmental finance centers in the United States. We're based out of the University of Maryland. We serve all of EPA Region 3, so basically all of the Bay States. And we work with localities and communities on capacity building and training, policy analysis and financial assessment, and community outreach and facilitation. And this project sort of touched on all of those different things. The purpose of the study was to examine your existing and future stormwater program, to analyze the current stormwater management system practices and plans, to conduct a level of service analysis, complete a budget and annual report review, and consider the future stormwater needs of the town. We met 4 times with the Stormwater Utility Feasibility Advisory Committee. We discussed different stormwater financing strategies for the town, pros and cons of all of those. We explored a proposed rate structure for the town. That study was based on existing and future needs. We presented multiple structures to the committee for consideration and included recommendations for a credit system moving forward. And then we also completed some public outreach and education materials based off of each meeting that could be displayed. One of them is in your elevator we saw. So that's an overview of the study. I should also say, if you have questions during my presentation, feel free to stop me, or I can take them at the end, whatever's easiest. Some background information about the regulation of stormwater. We spent a lot of time talking about this with the committee. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Clean Water Act, which established the basic structure for regulating water pollution. And the Clean Water Act basically allows the EPA to implement different pollution control programs, which is what led to the conversation we're having today. With this is included total maximum daily loads, or TMDLs, which are essentially pollution diets for water bodies. And it's important to note that these are both bay-wide, so Chesapeake Bay TMDLs, as well as for local water bodies. And most importantly, I just want to note that what's good for the Bay is also good for local water quality. We had a lot of conversation about the fact that Emmitsburg is not really near the Bay, and the Bay doesn't resonate, you don't look out your windows and see it, but what you're doing for your water quality here has an impact on the Bay, but it's also good for you. And then municipal separate storm sewer permits, or the MS4 permit, which Emmitsburg does have. These are federally mandated, but they are issued by the state, and their essential role is to regulate pollution coming from storm drains. Emmitsburg MS4 permit they're reissued every 5 years in perpetuity by the state. So this is not something that is going to go away. Your current permit period started in October of 2018 and it ends October 30th of 2023. So you are more than halfway through it at this point. All MS4 permits require meeting 6 minimum control measures, or MCMs, as well as impervious surface restoration, which is basically your stormwater best management practices. To date, the town has put most of their effort into meeting these MCMs. So these are things like public outreach and education, illicit discharge and detection and elimination, things related to construction runoff. What you need to focus on now is the impervious restoration requirement, basically installing the stormwater management BMPs. You've essentially done the cheap part. Now you need to focus on the more expensive part. And along with this, we had a conversation about what is the cost of doing nothing. You have to meet the terms of this permit. If you don't, you can be subject to very high fines. They also lead to things like emergency repairs, failing infrastructure, increased treatment costs for your water, as well as water quality and habitat degradation. So as I said, we met with the Stormwater Utility Feasibility Advisory Committee. This was 10 members that were approved by council. We met 4 times from November through February. The meetings were advertised and open to the public, but we did not receive any comments from the public, nor did anyone from the public attend. And as I said, after each meeting, we produced a summary flyer that could be distributed what we talked about. What you see here is a list of the 10 members of the committee, with a note that Rachel Esses was on the committee but had to recuse herself because, as stated earlier, they moved out of town. Some background information about stormwater utility fees. These fees are not mandated by the states. No one is saying that you have to have a fee. According to a study that was done in 2021 by Western Kentucky University, they do a stormwater utility survey. They found that there are currently 1,851 stormwater utilities nationwide, including Maryland, which has 17, also in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and the District of Columbia. Nationwide, the average single-family residential fee is $5.94 a month, and the median fee is $4.88. The map that you see here, each one of these green dots represents a stormwater utility fee within the United States as of 2021. And so what you see is there is a wide distribution. It's not an East Coast, West Coast thing or anything like that. Data from the study also shows that implementation is not governed by politics. Both large and small states, small towns have fees. Left-leaning, right-leaning, conservative, liberal, everybody has them. States both large and small have them. Fees typically range from $0 a month to $45 a month, and these fees are largely determined by the stormwater needs. There are currently 7 states that have over 100 established utilities. So again, this map shows you that same distribution. Every one of these dots represents a fee within the country. And then you can see in this legend here, the color and shape of the dot represents the size of the fee. So we started by looking at all of the fees in the state of Maryland. As I said, there's 17 of them. You see them all listed here. You can see this column represents the type of fee. So tiered is represented by T, ERU is represented by E. I'm going to talk about both of those things in a moment. You can see what the ERU is. I'll be explaining that. And then you can see what the average, what their fee is. The thing I want to point out about this column right here is you can't make a direct comparison from one fee to another fee because all of these fees are structured and billed differently. So some places bill quarterly, and so the dollar amount you see here might represent a quarterly fee. Some of them bill monthly. So it's hard to make a 100% direct comparison just based off of this data. You also see the year that the fee was implemented and the population of the county or town where the fee is established. And you'll see the city of Frederick has a fee that is currently the only fee in Frederick County. I want to talk a little bit about the most common structures for fees. Most fees are based on the total amount of impervious cover on a property. In other words, the total amount of hard surfaces, driveways, rooftops, roadways, and parking lots. Typically, these things do not include public sidewalks, roadways, and structures that are in the public right of way. So your driveway would be considered impervious, but the road that your driveway is on would not factor into these calculations. But essentially, the larger the amount of impervious surface, the larger your fee is going to be. The most common structure that we see is what's called the equivalent residential unit, or the ERU. We presented 3 different structures to the committee and examples from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Berlin, Maryland, and the city of Frederick in Maryland as examples. And the committee agreed upon a structure that is similar to Gettysburg. Gettysburg has what we call a tiered system that's based off of an ERU. They don't make any differentiation between residential and non-residential properties. They bill quarterly, and their ERU is the equivalent of 2,500 square feet of impervious surface, and every ERU is billed a fee of $100 per year. So what does that mean? The equivalent residential unit is the average impervious area on a single family residential parcel. To figure out what your ERU is, which what you see here in the yellow box is how we calculated Emmitsburg's ERU, you add up the total impervious area for all of your residential properties, and then you divide that by the total number of residential properties that you looked at. So for Emmitsburg, it's 2,594,387 square feet of impervious surface coming from 885 residential units. When we do the math there, oh, that's a typo. That should be 2,932. So one ERU is 2,932 square feet of impervious surface. In the study that I referenced earlier, the average ERU nationwide is 3,072 square feet. So you're slightly below that. We looked at 885 residential parcels in the town, and that included anything that was zoned as R1, R2, R3, and then certain parcels within the village zone that we were told to consider as residential. We did not consider any town parcels in any of these calculations. When we started looking at different fee options and structures for you, we took a few things into consideration. We looked at 4 main funding scenarios. The first was a maximum fee of $20 a year, meaning regardless of your impervious area, like the maximum fee is $20 per year. We looked at funding just enough through your fee to cover your impervious area restoration or the BMPs that you need to put into the ground. We looked at funding for what we determined to be your current level of service, and then we looked at funding for the recommended level of service. We also looked at the distribution of your impervious area over all of your residential parcels. So in other words, we took all 885 of them. We looked at all of them to see what the average amount was and where the breaking points were, where you had jumps from one size to another size. And we considered the number of tiers that would be needed to make the system equitable, meaning that no one was paying a lot more than their property would dictate. And then we had to make a decision about whether to use the zoning code or the land use classification when we're looking at the data. And we based everything off of the zoning code because it's more defensible legally and it's more consistent than land use classification is. But there were some cases where we went back to the land use classification to sort of cross-check what we were looking at. And then we also made the assumption that the town is going to continue to use grants for project implementation, which is really important because you've been very successful bringing money in through grants to help with your projects. And so when we considered what the recommended level of service needed to be, we assumed that that would continue to happen. So how do we determine the number of tiers? We started with the residential. As I said, the ERU is 2,932 square feet. So we took that and divided it in half, basically, and this is the same process Gettysburg used. So if you were 1,466 square feet or less, we put that into tier 1, and we called that half of the ERU. If your property falls from 1,466 square feet of impervious surface, but less than 4,398, which is 2,392 plus 1,466, you fall into tier 2, and we considered that to be 1 ERU. If your property has more than 4,398 square feet of impervious surface, you fall into tier 3. And in that case, your fee is actually calculated. When we looked at this breakdown, we thought that this made sense. You see, there's 173 parcels that fall into this half ERU. 616 of them fall into this middle full tier, and then 96 fall into the third tier of greater than 4,398. And when you look at the percentages, what that means is that 20% here and 69% here. So the vast majority of your parcels, 89% of them, are going to fall into either the half ERU tier or the full ERU tier. And only 11% of your residences fall into this third calculated column. And then we went through the same process with your non-residential properties. And you see the opposite here, which is what you should be seeing. So in this case, 72% of the non-residential properties fall into tier 3, where their fee would be calculated, and the remainder of them fall into these first two. So the way we calculate the fee for the tier 3 properties is you take your total impervious area, you divide it by your ERU, which is 2,932 square feet, and then you multiply that by whatever the fee is that you establish. And that's how you would calculate what those fees would be. Any questions about that? So the first scenario that we looked at was the $20 maximum a year. When we break this down, because you want to bill quarterly, so $5 per quarter, $20 per year. For your residential properties seen here in the blue, the vast majority of them fall into tier 1 and tier 2. So in tier 1, those people would pay $2.50 per quarter or $10 per year. In tier 2, it would be $5 per quarter or a maximum of $20 per year. And so that's going to net you $14,000 roughly. And then tier 3, those calculated properties, they pull in about $5,000. So your total revenue in this scenario would be just shy of $20,000 a year from your residential properties. The average fee for these parcels that fall into tier 3 would end up being about $50 per year for those very large properties, of which I think there were just 11%. For your non-residential properties, same process. You see here that you're getting the vast majority of your income, your revenues coming from those larger parcels. Your total income is roughly $16,000 a year. And for these tier 3 properties in this scenario, their average stormwater fee per year would be about $114. So your total revenue under this $20 maximum per year scenario is just short of $35,000. The second scenario that we looked at was $26 per year. When we went through all of your outstanding projects and the things that are slated for stormwater management and looked at the costs of those and how much money has already been brought in through grants, we calculated out that in order to just cover the remaining impervious restoration costs would cost about $26 per year as your fee. And so again, residential blue, your non-residential in your yellow, you can see here that at $26 a year, tier 1 would pay $13, tier 2 would pay the full $26, and then tier 3 again would be calculated. So in this scenario, you're bringing in around $25,000 worth of revenue through your fee. Your average tier 3 fee for the large residential parcels would be almost $66 a year. For your non-residential parcels, again, it's flip-flop, so the majority of your money is coming from your tier 3 properties, which bring in about $20,000. The average fee for these parcels would be $148 per year for a total revenue of around $45,000 a year in this scenario. For fee 3, we looked at your current level of service. So we went through your past 3 annual reports that have been submitted to the state. And we looked at the costs that you've been paying every year for things like street sweeping, maintenance, your outreach and education, all of those things you're doing right now. We also considered some additional requirements that MDE has come down with, saying, for example, they want the town to double down on the amount of street sweeping they're doing. And so we looked at the additional cost of that because they said that you have to do that to maintain your permit. And so that all went into calculating the current level of service cost. And that worked out to be $32 a year is what you need to charge as your fee to cover your current level of service. So again, you see the breakdown here. Through your residential properties, you're going to net about $31,000. The average fee for these large properties jumps up to be $81 a year. But your smaller properties they're only paying $16 a year, and most of your residential parcels would pay $32. For your non-residential, it jumps up to about $25,000 total. Again, most of it coming from your larger properties. And the average fee for your tier 3 properties would be about $182 a year. And so this brings in roughly $56,000 over the course of the year. And then the fourth scenario that we looked at was the recommended level of service. Again, this is based off of what you have in your last 3 annual reports, the additional requirements of MDE, as well as some additional money for operation and maintenance costs for the 2 projects that are currently in the design phase, and also building a reserve fund for the town that could pay for these emergency repairs, provide match for grants and things of that nature. And so in this scenario, your total revenue from your residential properties is about $45,000, with that tier 3 fee jumping up to be $119. Your small properties are paying $23.50. Most of your properties are paying $47. And the average fee here being $120 for the large properties. For your non-residential properties, again, most of your money coming from your large non-residential parcels with $36,000. The average fee for these is $267.68 for the entire year, with your total revenue being almost $82,000. So we presented all of those to the committee. This screenshot here shows you a summary of all of those things on one slide. I know it's a little small, but it was the best way to compare across the board. So this is your $20 per year maximum. This is your just impervious restoration, your current level of service, your recommended level of service. And then at the bottom, you see all the things that we took into consideration when calculating $26, $32, or $47. And so just a comparison across the board. The other thing we looked at was a recommendation for a credit system. The credit system would be only for non-residential properties. It would be a maximum of 20%. And so what you see in the red here represents the amount of revenue that you would lose if every single commercial property or non-residential property in the town met all of the credit requirements to get the maximum 20%. So this is basically 20% off of your income from your non-residential properties. Shows you how much money you would lose. And you can see it's not a whole lot of money overall. I also want to say that it is highly unlikely that every single property that was eligible in the town would do this and meet the maximum 20%. So this is sort of like your worst case scenario for what you could lose through your credit system. And then these last ones represent the town parcels. I put this in here just so you could see if you did decide to charge a fee to the town parcels as well. This is how much money the town would owe each year for their stormwater fee based off of each of the scenarios. So we presented all of this to the committee. 7 of the 9 members voted. 2 of the members voted for the $20 a year fee. 1 voted for $32, 3 voted for $47, 1 abstained, and 1 was undetermined. It's also worth noting that the committee members that stand to pay the most money through the stormwater fee voted in favor of the highest fee. And then also the committee agreed on a credit system for non-residential properties with a maximum credit of 20%. What that credit system would look like, again, only available to non-residential properties, it would be a maximum credit of 20%. In order to get that 20%, any best management practice, so rainwater harvesting, permeable pavement, rain garden, any practice installed has to be designed and installed in accordance with the 2000 Maryland Stormwater Design Manual, volumes 1 and 2. The BMP has to be permitted through both the town and the county, and the BMP has to be in accordance with something that would be credited through the MS4 permit. And so you see in the 4 scenarios, this is the total revenue from your non-residential properties. And then this is the amount of money that you could lose from that if, again, every eligible property completed and qualified for the 20% credit. So point being, a credit system is not going to cost you a whole lot in revenue. And that's all. I can take any questions that you have. It's a lot.
Any questions at this time? On it's fine, I think. I mean, we've got the hard copy in case we need to reference it. Mr. Davis, is this one of the,
This will come out with our quarterly bills for water,
that's what the plan was.
Yes,
Correct.
that-
Yes,
just be added on.
it would be added to, I don't know if my thing's working. Yeah, it would, if approved, it would be added to the quarterly bills as a separate line item.
Mr. Davis and Mr. Burns, this is the meetings that you guys have been attending? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? Okay. And how many meetings do you guys attend? I mean, we're
All but one.
all the ones, but I mean, what I'm trying to ask is what was the total of meetings?
4.
Four total. Okay, very good. Okay. And were commissioners voting members?
Yes, sir.
You were, very good. Okay. Best meetings ever?
Michelle makes them fun.
Yeah, it wasn't as painful as I thought it was.
Yeah.
gonna be.
How about this? It was more eye-opening than anything else because there was definitely things that we learned in regards to who's paying what and certain people who you thought were paying that were municipalities that are not, that are just incorporated into the county and really have no say into it. And it doesn't reflect on their bottom line, I would say.
Urbana?
Amongst some, yes.
One among a few, okay. Linganore?
Yep.
Okay.
So
Equity?
yeah, there is none. And so I think that was one of the more eye-opening things that, kind of struck me in the first meeting was that because we are a municipality, we are burdened with a lot of this, and being a smaller municipality, especially, I mean, you can see the numbers on the agenda items on everything you just saw. It does pose significant time, money to not only our staff, to our residents and things of that nature. Whereas there's certain parts of Frederick County where it's just kind of thrown in, to their bill and the county's takes care of it and they're good to go. And especially when you look at the, I would say, financial demographics of the two different areas, and the amount of money that's going into the Urbana area, Linganore area versus our area, it's difficult to justify why we are paying just as much in these fees as some of the other areas as well. You all saw the map and can see how spread out across the nation it is, and where different areas are paying the fees. All of New Jersey, almost all of Maryland, I think, except west of Hagerstown, correct? It doesn't go out to Allegheny County, does it? I don't think. Garrett County is the cutoff time. I think, yeah. So, as you go farther west.
The impervious surface requirement is within the
Okay. But it's funny though, because right. As I drove north into Pennsylvania, we were up in the Poconos, you could see the Bay Area. It said leaving Chesapeake Bay Area watershed. However, when you look on the map, a lot of that area is not in those, fee structures or anything of that nature. So it's kind of difficult how it's all structured out and things of that nature. So at the end of the day, is this something that we all think is necessary? Probably to help, maintain the bay and things of that nature, and, the longevity of, our children's going forward and children's and things of that nature. But from a small town perspective, it's difficult.
Are there limits? Well, I'll rephrase it. There are always limits. How are the funds that are collected in these format applied? Is it for staffing to monitor these things? Is it for the swale review or?
So it's really how the board would like to see them applied.
Okay.
What the mayor, Kathy, and I were discussing is putting this money into, well, it has to be into a separate fund. It's going to be its own utility if it's
Okay.
passed.
Okay,
And what we were thinking about is putting 100% of the funds towards restoration projects. So the citizens and the businesses can see their money being put to use. So trees in the ground, BMPs being restored like Silo Hill, things like that, not used for staff time.
okay.
Or
So what would be an example of a restoration project? That'd be,
sure.
I know we were talking about.
Yeah. So the tree plantings that we're doing now
Okay.
over at wastewater treatment plant would be the Silo Hill Basin that we're doing right now. But in the future, we're going to need to retrofit the Northgate Stormwater Basin. So that would consist of digging up all the polluted ground, putting all new in trees, plants, other things that we could use it for is street sweeping. As Michelle stated, the state's really pushing municipalities to double their efforts now
On the street sweeping.
on the street sweeping. Yep. So you're going to see more of that. Also the North Seaton Avenue, Green Street. We can get a lot of credits for that. So there's just a couple examples.
And also maintenance, because it's important to remember when you put
Sure.
these projects in
Sure.
the ground, they have a lot of long-term maintenance that needs to happen in order to keep them doing their job.
Yeah.
So my neighborhood has the highly regarded and awarded swale program. And they're collecting a substantial amount of money from us on our HOA fee, of which a chunk of that's a portion to it. And the feedback we've gotten from one HOA review is that the work that was anticipated after 18 years isn't going to be necessary at all. So they're saying the fee should be, like, the conversation is, should the fee be reduced on our end? So I'm wondering about the maintenance piece on some of these not wastewater, but stormwater capture basins.
So the reason why the committee decided and staff decided
Mhm.
that we weren't recommending a reduction credit program for residential properties
Okay.
is because we don't have the staff levels to go out and check rain barrels, the cisterns and swales that they have to be maintained. The state requires a maintenance schedule for everything.
Okay.
So we just don't have the staffing in order to go inspect that.
But if a household were to set up a cistern or rain barrels or a rain garden that met the standard as defined, they could get credit for that if we were to look at the other options, or is that just is that totally off the table?
We're recommending it totally be off the table. The state sets the guidelines for how you get credits for rain barrels. For example, I spoke with the state about this, and you have to get a signed agreement with the property owner. We would have to make sure that this property owner still owns the property every so many months. We'd have to go out and check the rain barrels to see if they're functioning every so many months. It's just too time consuming.
Okay.
But if a business would like to do that, we'd be willing to offer credits
So,
not for rain barrels, for like rain gardens, as you mentioned.
okay.
For
So,
example, Steve Trout agreed to put a garden on top of Jubilee.
well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
like a green roof set
Yeah,
up.
he was gonna-
Yes.
He said no
We have
problem.
that on tape.
Yeah, he said no problem. He's gonna put trees on top of Jubilee and take out at least 50 parking spots to put trees in as well.
He's a good man. I respect that. Okay, so I'm thinking more along the lines of a warehouse facility or a hub or a fulfillment center. If they were to look at what's coming down the pike, does it sort of create a double jeopardy where if we lean one way, they're not going to get anything from it? If we do lean that way?
So a new business automatically would be required, this is say Federal Stone, would
Okay.
be required or will be eligible for the 20%.
Okay,
Because they're going to meet those 3 criteria as Michelle outlined.
Okay.
It's going to be built after 2000. It's going to be permitted to the county. And
so we're not creating a double jeopardy. That's really-
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
terrific. Okay. I'm just interested that on the one side, a household doesn't have that option, but a residential, that a commercial entity does. And, you know, I've always been yelled at by my wife because her rain barrel is crooked. And I've tried my best, but nature does what it does. And if there were credits available for that, sure. Or the fact that we have the swale in front of the house, if I'm not mistaken, we're paying for it, but it's not our property, yet we maintain it.
Well, so
So-
HOA common property would be eligible for the credit, right?
for this, it wouldn't be.
For this, it wouldn't be.
No.
Okay.
for like the Silo Hill Basin, it wouldn't be. Any kind of stormwater basins that are maintained by the HOAs would not be.
Okay, all right.
And one of the reasons for that is the county provides inspections for us for free every 3 years. So we get the benefit that the county goes out and inspects these basins.
Okay, so what if we were to go toward, and I'm throwing things out, I really,
Sure.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
put everybody in the spot, but a street tree program. Was, where we had
Street tree.
a street tree program where we had, you know, if it's approved and what can be planted in the swale, and I think it was like maples and things like that, but
It was
not willows.
discussed.
Would that push us toward the town overall credit of, you know, forest canopy and
Unfortunately,
in line with this?
unfortunately, it's not enough to get any kind of credits that would be that you can actually see on our and save money on our permit.
Wasn't there, we talked about the number of trees that would have to be
Right.
planted in order for it to
It's
even show up as a
acres.
credit
Yeah,
total.
It's
So-
per acre.
I think one of the things we didn't discuss was there's X amount of credits that we have to have every 5 years. And certain things like street sweeping counts for 2 credits.
Sure.
And planting a tree counts for 0.02 credits. So I mean, we would have to plant 500 trees for it even to be significant enough for it to show up. Because we said it was one of the suggestions in the meeting is, hey, why doesn't the town go out, get the trees? We'll have each resident come in and buy X amount of trees.
Mm.
But the number was so insignificant that even with, I mean, we would have to,
A program. that-
yeah,
pan out.
it wouldn't work out. And I think the other thing you're saying is with the rain barrel program, obviously, you know, we've done the rain barrels and things of that nature over the years. That's a great program for the people that want to do that and, you know, make their own conscious effort to
Mhm.
help. However, like we said earlier, our staff is limited. The amount of money we have is limited. So
Mhm.
for us to go out and visit the 885 residents on a almost
Quarterly,
bi-monthly,
yeah.
quarterly basis to check on all those, you're taking staff away from everything else
Right.
in town as well. We'd have to hire 4 or 5 more people just to be able to keep up with all those things, to go out to check the trees, to check the rain barrels. I mean, we're already, you know, stretching our staff thin with everything else that we're doing.
Correct.
So it just, all the ideas that you're saying were ones we kind of threw out at different times during the meeting. And I think the one thing that we addressed and Commissioner Davis and I discussed as well several times is the difficult part about implementing any of these fees right now. And obviously we're going to continue to talk about it, is we're also in the process of examining our our sewer and water fees as
Correct.
well. And so it's going to be difficult to, how do we implement anything here on top of what we may be implementing shortly down the road as well. So we don't want to see everybody all of a sudden, okay, hey, here's $20. And oh, by the way, we just did our comprehensive study of water and sewer. And for us to maintain anything for the town, whether it be sewer, water, new water lines, or anything like that, we're gonna have to jump everybody another $50 a quarter. You know, you're looking at an additional $220 a year for some people. And given the state of gas at $5 a gallon right now, and people are gonna have to make hard decisions on what they're gonna be able to pay and what they're not gonna be able to pay. And so, you know, I personally, I'll be transparent, I voted for the $20 a year. And it was simply because, you know, until we address everything else,
Right.
we can't expect people to start paying higher dollar amounts for something like this.
How frequently, once we set a fee, can we come back and revisit that fee?
As often as you would like.
Okay,
So
so
we can
there's no state mandate?
Correct.
Okay. all right.
So, and you might wonder why we picked $20 as such a random number.
No, I'm good. I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
I will also say that most places that have fees, 2 things we've learned is it's easier to lower it than it is to raise it.
Sure.
And also a lot of places never raise them. They set a fee saying, oh, well, you know, we're going to do this. And then in 5 years, we're going to reevaluate. And these like big places like the city of Norfolk, they haven't raised their stormwater fee in over 5 years. And so it becomes very hard to also raise them. And
Sure.
so
Yeah,
that's-
And one of the reasons I think that they do that is because they really need us probably a study in order to determine if it's a fair increase or is it a legal increase? Because this is a legally defensible study that we have now.
Now, the extra count we're going to be making for this, then all the new businesses and stuff coming have to pay a certain amount for.
That's correct. It would be based on their
That'll go
impervious.
Right into that account instead of, you know.
That's
once you
correct.
Can't plant trees and and stuff like that.
So for example, Rutter's coming in, they're putting in a large basin. We would take their impervious and then we would automatically give them the 20% discount because they have a basin that was built to today's standards and it actually gets us credit.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the other things that should be discussed is our 5-year term is up in 2023. We have no idea what the next 5 years will entail. So it's difficult right now to say, yeah, $20 or $47 or anything is great because we can't carry over. So we could go out tomorrow, plant 1,000 trees, make everything perfect and have all these credits, but nothing carries over into the next cycle. So for us to say right now, okay, hey, this is a great number, but as of March of next year, whatever, October of next year, we have no idea what the next 5 years will entail and what the state and federal government's going to mandate for us. So everything that we do now is great. We're making all of our numbers, but we're also in for a huge surprise come October of 23 in when they say, okay, oh, by the way, now you have to do all of this as well.
What happens when you run out of space or things to fix?
They'll find a way.
we'll find something.
Because if you only have a little small municipality, you're gonna run out of things to fix after a while.
Well, that's when you have to look at things like they want increased street sweeping right now. That's something that you can always do. It comes down to things like retrofitting existing properties, putting in practices at places where you don't already have practices. So like all your new development is going to have practices that qualify, but there are probably places now that don't have any stormwater management. So you end up having to retrofit and put things in and look at restoring if you have practices that aren't meeting standards. So they're failing their inspections, which is why your operation and maintenance money is so important. That's essentially what is happening. I live in the district and that's what's happening in the district, right? There's no room to plant trees or no green space. So it's all about retrofitting your existing properties.
And one thing that's really needed here, however, we've been putting it off because it's so expensive, is stream restoration. You know, we get complaints probably a few times a year from Flat Run on West Main Street, I guess, yeah, Flat Run, that their streams are just eroding so bad it's going back to their sheds and they're scared that their shed's going to fall in. So something we need to consider. We're trying to do the low bearing fruit, the cheapest projects, best bang for your buck. However, we're running out of those projects.
You can get a lot of credit for stream restoration. It's just a very expensive process, but you get a tremendous amount of credit from the state for it, more than anything else.
Yep.
Can we get help if we do restoration? Can you get help from the engine? It's a what do they call it?
The Army engineers.
Yeah, Army Corps of Engineers.
I'm not sure. I know we would have to get approval from them. I don't know if we'd get help.
They've been in here. I don't know if it's been when I first came commissioner, and that's been a while back, but they dredged or cleaned Flat One.
Sure.
Once before.
Isn't that an EPA issue right now with dredging any of the streams or creeks?
Yeah.
Right now.
Waters of the US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that, because we talked about that with creek that goes over the new bridge. Remember, it was all dammed up and I mentioned that. And we've said, okay, let's get somebody back there, but it was going to be an EPA thing where they had to come in and, you know, supervise and do all that stuff as well.
It's one of the most strict projects.
Yeah, I understand.
Yep.
The Army Corps would have to permit your project. So it wouldn't just be a county project, and you'd have to have a county permit, a state permit, and you would have to have a permit from the Army Corps, but the Army Corps doesn't typically hand out money for restoration, for stream restoration projects, but there are grant funds
Yep.
available to do that.
So here's a crystal ball question. And I'm comparing apples to oranges, but we look out west, we see our cousins in Colorado and municipalities in the state. And it is, if I understand it correctly, against the law to impound water or to capture any rainwater. Like a private household cannot capture the rainwater. Do you have any sense that the state were moving in that direction for free flow, other than like the stormwater, you know, retention pieces? Or
I don't see, I mean, and Jen, correct me if you think I'm
Okay,
wrong, but
all right.
I don't see any scenario where the state of Maryland is ever going to say you cannot capture and reuse rainwater.
great, okay,
And most of the places where you have that, it's because of like
sure. drought
aquifers
conditions
and stuff like
correct,
that. Yeah.
precisely.
So no, I don't see a case. In fact, the state would like to see more people capturing rainwater.
That's what I mean, it feels that way, but I'm wondering if there's some hairpin in the road up ahead. So no, well, that's
Not for
fair.
that.
Yeah, and hopefully we don't ever get to that issue with our aquifers, but
Right.
The other thing to mention is, I know, was it 10 years ago, they called it the rain tax and everybody lost their mind. This is not the rain tax.
It's a stormwater fee.
It's a stormwater fee. It was brought up right away. Well, this is another rain tax. No, it's not the rain tax that was put in place years ago, but some might see it that way, but it is not the rain tax.
okay. Sharing is caring. All right. Staff, we turn to you. Are you looking for action on us this evening, or this is advisory?
Yeah, so I think what we're looking for is whether the board is going to take the committee's recommendation to implement the fee for stormwater.
Yeah,
The $47 one.
that's what
one.
we would recommend. However, I know it's not, it's the max amount of fee and it may be hard to digest to start. But that's what's needed in order to, worst case scenario, bigger, larger projects coming up. That's what they found was the most recommended.
That would be our recommendation.
Sure.
But we also understand constraints.
So I understand this with absolute clarity. We're asking each business and each residence to pay the sum of $47 annually for this fee.
It would be dependent on their
Oh, I'm sorry,
ERU.
business would vary. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
Residences would
okay.
also vary.
So we're going, I'm sorry. So we're going with the tiered system then?
that's what we
Not a flat
recommend.
rate, but
3 different tiers.
that's our base rate to be divided.
Correct.
$47. All right. Sorry. I didn't understand.
And also important to note that this would be on every property. So nonprofits, profits.
Okay, so every property in town, commercial,
Correct.
residential, profit or nonprofit.
With the exception of town parcels.
With the exception of town.
Ours as being the town. Okay.
What would the effective date be if we approve any fee this evening?
So we're just looking for a recommendation if this is something that the board would consider approving at a future date. We do want to wait for the water and sewer. The mayor wants to wait for the water and sewer rate study to come back.
Good.
If we get a favorable review tonight, then we can start working on the stage 2, which is implementation. It's going to be another hiring another firm, hopefully University of Maryland. And for the implementation phase, there's a lot of work that needs to be done for it. A lot of digging into the water and sewer accounts to make sure it's all right.
So potentially, I mean, I'm not holding you to this. We're looking at maybe at the earliest, like a late summer, fall.
It's probably a year
implementation.
process.
Or even
right?
a year. Okay.
So, yeah, so the hope was to have the water and sewer rate fee study and connection studied, completed and implemented by July 1st. So to correspond with the new fiscal year. I'm not sure that we're going to meet that deadline. There's a lot of information for him to go through, but that was our original goal.
All right.
And then to implement this either in a year or at the beginning of next fiscal year. So in fiscal year 24, July 1 of 23 then.
All right. It's going to take a lot of work for us to get to that point. So that's why we're looking for some feedback.
A lot of that work would be outreach and education, public meetings, that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, we want to continue to educate the public as much as possible.
So I want to make sure I understand specifically what staff is seeking then. If we're looking at fee scenario 4, which is the $47 base, okay, 47-year recommended level of service. Are you recommending that we advocate for that sum, but bring it back to create it as a mandate?
I would recommend I would recommend setting your fee, whatever tier or whatever scenario you choose to go with the, and then directing staff then to work on the implementation to be brought back at a further date.
And then if it's determined with the water and sewer rate that, this wouldn't be palatable, we can obviously adjust it then if needed.
Yeah.
So would the fee be titled the Stormwater Utility Fee? Is that how it gets labeled?
On the bill,
Yes.
we can title it anything, NPDES permit fee, MS4 fee, whatever
Doesn't say rain tax.
as long as it doesn't say rain tax.
You are correct.
It's a dirty words.
Okay, so with that in mind, is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the Maryland Environmental Finance Center and town staff for the stormwater utility fee to be set at $47 a year
Per ERU.
per ERU? Thank you, sir. Okay.
I'll second. it.
Well, I'm not making the motion. You would have to make that motion. Mr. Sweeney?
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Okay, so Mr. Sweeney's made the motion. Is there a second for Mr. Sweeney's motion? I'll second the motion. Treasurer, I think I turn this over to you then, if I'm seconding it.
Is there discussion?
So you ask, is there any discussion?
Is there a discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Just to clarify. So we're voting now to approve the recommended $47 ERU fee. I'll call it that for lack of a better term. If approved this evening, the $47 fee, we're still going to look at the water and sewer study. And then at that time, determine whether or not to proceed with the $47 fee.
Correct. This just gives us a good base.
And the majority of the committee that met for this project, it appeared to recommend the $47 fee.
3.
Correct.
Not a
Majority. Correct. Yes.
So just 3 out of
The most votes were.
The
the
Most
most
votes.
votes. Yes, so it wasn't like a clear cut.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I personally feel it's too high. However, if it was a vast majority of the committee's recommendation, then I would honor that committee's recommendation. I'm a little torn on this.
So out of 9, 2 voted for 20, 1 voted for 32, 3 voted for 47, 1 abstained, and 1 was undetermined.
Yeah,
So
it's all over the map.
But if you also recognize, as it was noted, of the 3 that voted for the highest were the business owners in town who would be paying the most.
Yes. that's correct.
However,
Yep.
more than likely could afford to pay the most
Yes.
as well.
Well, just to clarify that a little bit without letting the cat out of the bag. At least a few of those were nonprofits.
Yep.
Who aren't paying taxes.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay. Thank you.
The only way the reason I made the motion for scenario 4 is because we're already paying for all the small things, all the big things are coming up. So we're gonna need the reserve money back. Hell, if we do, if not, we have to get grant money. If not, we'll have to pay for it somehow.
Yeah.
So,
correct.
Mr.
we're
Sweeney,
running out of the small things, and the
Right.
big things are coming up.
Mr. Sweeney, I agree with you on that. The other piece is if when we look at the water and sewer fees after they are reviewed, we might see we have latitude here to bring this down.
Yes.
In a perfect world, that is what will happen.
Mhm.
The reality is, though, I don't know that's going to happen. However, as I said before, wisely said before, it's easier to bring a fee down than to increase it. I don't think this would be overcharging. I think this would be wise preparation for anticipated significant future expenses. Nobody wants to raise a fee. Nobody wants to increase a tax or levy a new tax. I just think this is sort of an unhappy rock and hard place where we're dwelling right now. So that's where I'm coming from in my rationale. I can hear you all leaping hurrah behind me. So no.
No, as I said it before, for me, I can't see paying that right now for a large majority of the people in town. And it makes it even more difficult in the fact that if you say $47 right now, and we finish this water feasibility study with sewer and everything like that, and we see that we're gonna have to increase by $50, $60, $100 based on tiers and everything like that, That's a huge jump.
It is.
And to say $47 on top of that as well,
He said we can decrease it if we have to.
but
But if it holds, that's what
Yeah.
you're.
that's what I'm
you're
saying, if it
hypothesizing.
holds. But that the difficult part is how are we going to say $47 and then, oh, by the way, here's another $100 a quarter or $50 a quarter, or whatever it might be. People,
So
given where we are right now, it's for me, it's difficult.
I'll agree with your argument 100%, but I'll give you a premise. The boards who sat here before said the exact same thing about the water and the sewer fees at that time, which has delivered us this very difficult situation where we have an antiquated system that is the highest priority for our community to fix, both water delivery and sewer issues.
I don't disagree with what you're saying,
Okay,
but if we do go ahead with the water and sewer fees that are increased, it'll be the first time in how long? The last time the sewer fee went up was years ago.
Sewer fees went up in 2 stages with the new water plant. The last stage was 2015.
Yeah.
Didn't they come back down after that as well?
Not sewer.
Okay, but the water did.
Water, no, I don't think water's decreased. The last time there was a water increase only affected the higher tiers, and I believe that was in the early 2000s. And then there was one increase in 2012.
So I'm not disagreeing that the water and sewer fees need to go and
Right.
change. And I've said that for the last 2 years now, almost. I said, I'll be the bad guy and say that.
Right.
However, levying this on top of it is
it's a burden.
a 1-2 punch.
Mhm.
I agree.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in, any questions? Yeah, no questions for staff. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
No.
Nay. Nays carry 3-2 with all 5 members voting.
Okay, so in the vote, Commissioner Burns, Davis, Ritz voted against, and Commissioner Sweeney O'Donnell voted in favor. So we turn to staff again. Do we need to look at a different fee then?
Go to the next tier down.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's ask the board if we're going to go that way. You just want to jump to your $20, or does anybody have a cleaner
Tier
amount?
32. Your next tier is 32, and then it would be the
7, I think. the next.
27.
32,
So,
26,
Quick
20.
survey of the
26.
commission. Anybody on board with 32? That looks like a no.
Does anybody have any idea how the other communities are taking care of this? Since Frederick City is the only one in the county that's charging.
And Frederick City's $2.50, if I remember correctly.
I think they're $100 a
And-
year.
That's
Oh,
Gettysburg,
okay.
it's $100 a
Gettysburg.
year.
Gettysburg is $100 a year divided into quarters.
City of Frederick's $1.25. Was that quarterly or monthly? Right. So just to kind of, I'll ask you this then, given what Commissioner Davis just asked, the fees that are listed here, were they quarterly or monthly?
In the chart for all the state.
Yes.
They vary. That's
Very
why I
good.
said.
No, I
can't-
understand. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can't
So I
make a
think, I
direct
think to
comparison.
go back to what Commissioner Davis was saying is how is everybody else handling this? It's difficult to look at those numbers then and determine.
Or were you asking about the other places that don't have fees,
Like
right?
Thermont,
Like
it's
the
like
other
Thermont.
MS4,
Mhm.
yeah, the other MS4 communities we talked about at the committee meeting that don't currently have fees. My guess is they're having the same conversations that you all
Yeah.
are having because
So, yeah, so like Thermont, they have a huge budget compared to little town of Emmitsburg, and a lot of it's being covered by tax bases. So the taxpayers are, eating the costs for all the nonprofits.
Right.
And I think it's a thing of the future. I think we're kind of hitting, I think everybody's going to go to this. I think all MS4 communities are going to be going towards a fee. You're going to see this triple and whatever. What did Mark say from Arrow? He said, this is all municipalities are going to have to pay this at some point. It's just getting unbearable costs.
Well, we need to start somewhere, I guess. So I make a motion to accept a tier for $20 a month, or $20 a year. Is that what it is?
$20 per ERU
Yeah,
per year.
to start with, and if we have to adjust it, I guess we'll have to adjust it.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
Any questions for staff? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed?
Nay. No nays.
No nays. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank,
If I can just explain my vote, it's going to be much easier. Nothing's going to be easy. But if we have to raise our water sewer rates, at least people are going to see that.
Yep.
They're going to see that we're replacing water lines, that we're doing the upgrades to the sewer plant. We're doing that kind of stuff. It's hard to explain to people that we're trying to make our waterways cleaner here in Emmitsburg, and you go to Baltimore City around the harbor and see nothing but trash and oil booms and everything else out there. And they go, well, yeah, our water's got to go through here. So even though it's clean coming out of here, it's got to go through there. So everything we've done, so I just think it'll be easier. At least we can, me personally can justify the water sewer rates. And it's nothing against the program. I understand it. I'm still going to, I haven't given up fighting because I don't think we should be paying the same, have the same standards as the city of Rockville. You know, like you say, these big municipalities are getting away with murder, and we're, you know, we're being stuck here as a little town.
Well, they do have to do a lot more than you. I will
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, but we're, you know, and our citizens are being double whammied because some of our tax dollars is going to Urbana to meet this.
And I think to follow up with what Commissioner Davis said, given our water history over the last 2 years, if and when our fees increase, we can justify saying, hey, look, this is exactly where it's going. It's going to be hard to justify that we swept the streets 3 times last quarter, or we planted 27 trees with that money. Whereas we can say, hey, look, knock on wood, no more brown water, no water issues, no leaks, nothing of that nature with the money that we just increased for everybody.
I just wish the state of the economy wasn't what it is right now. I really, it just,
Yeah. it's-
somebody was saying, you know, we filled up with a fire truck last night in Woodsboro at $4.75 a gallon for diesel.
It was $4.99 this
It's
afternoon.
$4.99 this afternoon. Same place.
I had to
That-
get gas on the way home.
That
so-
was overnight.
$1.94 cheapest. It's, where you're gonna find it. Still $3.99.
Parallel to Route 15.
Yeah.
It's worth your effort.
All right,
Will be.
thank you.
Yes.
I want to thank the University of Maryland. They did an amazing job. We still have a couple more things we got to knock out. But you guys did an amazing job. You did
No,
great.
those 4 meetings were very informative. I think you handled the questions and concerns and different attitudes very well. Thank you very much.
Well, you all were great to work with, and we appreciate the fact that you're willing to have a dialogue with us. We understand that this is a contentious and heated
There she
subject.
goes again. She's staring at me.
That's because somebody else isn't here, so we're good.
It's because you always had your camera on and he never had his camera on. So, but no, seriously, you were great to work with, and it's easier for us when there is a dialogue and we're not just preaching, when we're actually having conversation with you all. So thank you. For being
And
so-
I wasn't part of the committee, and I might not agree with everything, but your presentation this evening was it was a great presentation.
Thank
It made sense, and a lot of thought and effort went into it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'll take no credit whatsoever for you being here, but I will say that it was a contentious argument to get you here as opposed to a competitive vendor. And should we look to another type of study with this where we involve your organization, and I hope we can use you, please maintain your pricing as it had been, because that gave you a distinct advantage. And also the fact that we know that on my side, hopefully you're tapping the university for students and your programs to bolster your efforts because we like to see that long-term investment.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone will come and advocate for Emmitsburg to satisfy all of our monetary concerns, because it's not gonna solve itself tonight. We know that. But nevertheless, thank you guys.
Well, thank you all.
Any other items for agenda one? No, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
We turn to agenda item number 2, approval of bid for the purchase and installation of advanced license plate readers for consideration. We turn to staff for this item.
This item has been requested to be postponed by the mayor and staff. It needs to be put back out to bid. So I look to bring it back in April.
Okay. Any comments or questions for staff prior to postponing this item? One thing in the body of questions that will be asked, how long will this information be held? And who will have access to it? Just so we have an
It all
idea.
follows Maryland State Commission guidelines.
Okay,
What their retention time is it's their policy, so I can find that out.
that'd be great.
And it's limited to law enforcement only.
Okay, so it can't be like public information someone will seek, to access between 5 and 10 PM on a certain day.
Not through the town. They'd have to go through the deputies, and
Very
I
good.
can
Okay.
imagine they'd be sharing it.
Okay, terrific. All right, so with this, any other questions? I'm sorry, no? Okay, I'll turn to agenda item number 3, approval of the design for the new town sign for consideration. Page 22 of 25.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. The board did approve the purchase and installation of a sign of $55,000. This is the one that the mayor, Kathy, and I recommend. It will be a digital display sign, so Amy can easily put in messages. If the library has messages, any other nonprofit that needs to have messages put out. Also, we discussed that it will also be available for the 911 center to put out missing children alerts, any other hailstorms coming up, anything in that nature. This will be, if approved, this will be located at the existing sign location out front. We did get approval from Frederick County, who owns the property. Other than that, I'll take any kind of questions.
I have one. Well, first comment. I really like the sign.
Thank you.
I think it looks great. I mean, who designed it again?
This was Strickler.
Okay.
Strickler is the contractor we're looking at right now.
And I
We're
guess
still waiting on one more bid.
I'm trying to envision it. Of course, I can't see. Well, those flags are really flapping out there, by the way. That wind's going crazy. The placement of the sign, and then the mural, the volunteer mural. Is there going to be a site?
No, it should be perfect. They came out a week ago. We spoke with Steve Fissel, who's our maintenance guy. And what they're saying is for the design of the sign, the pillar will be closest to the actual town building. They say that the curve of the sign should be facing a building. We did check I guess for design, I don't know, I'm not a design person, but they said that this would be perfect location and it won't affect the visibility of the mural.
Okay, great. So basically on the right side is South Sea.
Correct.
The building's back here on the left.
Correct.
No. Okay, that was my main concern. I figured it
No, I'm
an
ready for-
unwarranted concern, but I just wanted.
Yeah,
to
I'm ready
ask.
for
Sure.
motion.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it.
TV's on both sides, screen 1201, 75 degrees. that's
Correct.
Facing both ways. Do we have any means by which we can dim it if there's a need where folks are upset it's too bright for them?
Yes, so it'll meet today's sign code, which will be mandated to be turned off at 11 PM.
Oh.
And then it would turn back on at 6 AM, I believe the time is. There's nits, 250 during the day maximum, 5,000 or 5,000 during the day maximum, 250 at night.
I'm more worried about nighttime with
Yeah.
residences on both sides.
It will be turned off.
The home across the street. Okay, great. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Burns. Go ahead.
Protection for the screen, like from anybody walking, driving by, throwing, hitting, anything like that.
The Burns children.
I'll have to ask that question. I didn't
All right, so
specifically
just
ask. that.
given the fact that we had the vandals in the park or some of the other signs that
Yeah.
have taken headers.
Written into the code.
Okay, I will definitely ask that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Like some kind of plexiglass.
Yeah, like a plexiglass screen, whatever it may be, just to,
I'm sure it does, but we'll ask.
just
Swap it out with the bank. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Davis, is there a motion to approve the design of the new town sign?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for this motion?
I'll second that.
Motion is made by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Are there any further questions? Anything for staff? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries 5-0. We now turn to agenda item number 4. Approval of bid to pave gravel area in Memorial Park for consideration.
Okay, so this is a redo from last month's meeting. At last month's meeting, the board approved HMF paving contractors for the project. However, they have withdrawn their bid. So we have to bring this all back.
Oh.
Again, the scope of the project is in Memorial Park to pave and stripe and line. On the timeline, you'll see it was posted in January. We opened the bids on January 31st. It was posted on the town's website, Facebook, Maryland Marketplace. This is grant funded with no match. And we are recommending Frederick County paving for $49,850. They have done work for the town before and staff is pleased with the work that they do.
Is that including the road goes around too?
Around,
Besides
yes,
Park- Yeah.
yes.
Make a motion, we accept staff recommendation.
I'll second.
We still have time for questions. Let's just move it.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Any other questions?
There you go.
In the sum of $58,000
Mhm.
and the item costing less, we find out if we could apply those funds to other park-related items.
I believe Ms. Shaw already reached out to them. I'd have to check back and see if she got a reply or not.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0.
I hope they don't withdraw theirs then.
And there's no voices from the heaven from Mrs. Shaw, from Miss Shaw today.
She's not on.
Oh, I was waiting for someone to just be like, nope, got it.
Yeah, got it here. Okay, with that in mind, I believe we've satisfied the agenda for this evening, other than turning to the agenda for our April 4th, 2022 meeting.
Okay, I have a couple different items related to consent agenda. We'll try again, appoint a person as an alternate to the Board of Appeals with a term of April 4th, 2022 through January 11th, 2024. I have 3 items for administrative business. First one is proclamation declaring April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Number 2, proclamation declaring April 16th, 2022 as Arbor Day. And for consideration, designation of 2 Open Meetings Act representatives. Agenda items. Number 1 will be a zoning map amendment, public hearing and consideration for lots C and D as shown on the final plat of section 1, plat 1, parcel C, D, and E of Brookfield recorded in plat book number 58, page 40. Number 2, approval of the abandonment of a sewer easement located at the Emmitsburg East Industrial Park 2 for consideration. Number 3, for consideration, Town of Emmitsburg's participation in the Maryland Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. And number 4 is approval of bid for the purchase and installation of advanced license plate readers for consideration. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I do have one
Yes,
question.
sir. Mr. Ritz.
Administrative business number C, the for consideration 2 Open Meeting Act representatives. Is that 2 representatives on the Board of Commissioners or?
So what we're gonna look for is 1 Board of Commissioner and the town clerk will be staff recommendation.
Okay,
So you're required to have a representative at each closed meeting per the Open Meetings Act,
yes.
and they have to be officially designated.
Is there a term limit on that?
No,
I thought Mr. O'Donnell already had that. Or was it Mr. Blanchard?
I think it was Commissioner Blanchard. And
Okay,
I don't know that we did an official dedication or designation. if we did.
I remember the discussion. Okay, that's all. All right, thank you.
I don't remember that training. I hate to say it. So that would probably.
I don't know why I thought.
We had the,
qualify me right there.
All right, well,
Sure
there you
he'll
go.
be there at the summer conference again.
we had the training together. You remember? 2018, probably.
Yeah, no, that was the open meetings
Yes.
in Mount Airy.
Yes.
That was a different meeting, I believe.
Okay.
Okay.
Huh.
Okay. Thank you.
Not trying to throw you under the bus.
No,
I
no,
just-
no, no,
I just
I-
assumed you had. it.
I'm under the bus. I'm just trying to find a way
All
out.
right.
Okay, so with that in mind, any additions to the agenda from the board? None? Okay, is there a
No.
motion to accept the agenda as present? The agenda as presented.
Also moved.
Is there a second for Commissioner Sweeney's motion?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 I wasn't very loud, but I did
Motion
say
to
aye.
the meeting. You already read that.
Okay, well, there's a second part to it here.
So
All right. Is there a motion to close the town meeting? Mr. Sweeney, would you make that motion? please?
I'll make a motion to close.
Mr. Ritz, I'm sorry, there's actually a script here. Sorry, because of our closed session that we're moving.
I
to.
make a motion to
Never mind.
close the March 7th, 2022 town meeting at 9:25.
9:25, excuse me.
9:25 for a closed executive session to discuss proposed employment of the candidate for the water and sewer trainee position. The Board of Commissioners will not be meeting in another open session after the closed session has ended.
Is there a second for Commissioner Sweeney's motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. Motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney, seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Is there any further discussion? One item I will add is I would suggest a 2-minute recess. So everyone.
Thank you.
Go wash your hands. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. The town open meeting is hereby closed. We will rejoin in about 2 minutes to begin our closed session.